So we have a list of patterns here. We have the S4Ls. This is just 4 strings starting on the 7, which is like a Locrian pattern. Okay. You have skewed to the left here, two alias strings, half whole, and then skewed to the right on top of it, brick wall pattern, whole half. So it's easy, to the left, then to the right. Then we have, well, of course, we have our S1A, which is any single shape pattern. So A is this. Why? Because when we play an E down here, when we play an A down here, remember this is the A pattern. When we play the A, E becomes the 5th. E becomes the 5th. Alright, so that's the name of that tune. Where were we? Okay, so we're talking about single shape patterns, and similar any other pattern. Let's look at the D pattern, 2 3 4, 2 3 4, because when we play the D, key of D, D shape D, the E becomes the 2, and the F sharp is the 3, and the G becomes the 4. So it's 2 3 4. So everything's based on that first open string key of cage notes. C, A, G, E, and D. Alright, so that's where the string shapes come from. They're the bottom string intervals during the key of caged. But of course they're also the bottom string intervals as we go along as we go along the fretboard. So sure, we can look at the same thing here, but we can look at it as we go along this way too. Alright, so this is, you can go up the fretboard on one string. You can play a scale on one string. Pretty much you can do them that way too. So they're the bottom strings of the shapes. So what is it saying? It's saying that the shapes, the G shape is like the key of G over here, but just moved up to the A. And the D shape is like the key of D over here in the open string where the nut is, right? It's in the D shape, but it starts on the D. Okay, so let's look at one more. The G shape over here is like a G over here, a key of G, G. It starts on the 3, but looking at the G shape over here, where's that G shape? Okay, the problem is that I'm showing you another one because it just happens to be the same note sometimes, and it looks misleading. Like the D shape starts on the D, because when you're playing a D here, say this is your fret nut. Whoops, my capo is trying to eat the strings. So then the E becomes the 2. So in that case, the D shape is the same as the D in the key of C. Well, when we look at the relationship of what happens with the G box, we play a G here. Okay, bottom string in that G shape, the E becomes the 6, right? So the E becomes the 6 in that, but that 6 is not the G. That 6 is the A. So I just wanted to show you that it's not always the same letter, the same note. Be careful that way. So anytime you're trying to figure out something, make sure you do all 5 positions. Do all cases. Test it through and through, because so many times I've thought, oh, that's the way it is, and then I found out, no, that was only a coincidence. for a couple of them. It's hard to, I do that with the diagrams too. I'll put string numbers over here, and somebody will think that string number 3, is here, and that's a note, and it's just a misunderstanding. So you can do the string shapes going out here. So we can do them here at key occasion. That reminds me, let's look at today's chart. Okay, that's not today's chart. All right, so today's chart is, we've got the same stuff up here, so we can use it to talk about what we were just talking about. Chart 200, yeah, 200. But really, there's like 410 charts. I had to notice that because the computer tells you that how many files you have. A lot of them are this and that. I have a file that's guitar charts plus other stuff, that this and that. But really, there's about 400 charts. So various kinds of diagrams. So this is keys of cage, open capo patterns, warped, which is the normal tuning, fourth, third, fourth, in between strings, right? So there's only 5 intervals in between 6 strings. And then we have unwarped, which is all fourths between strings. So that's an interval between strings, so we only see 5 of them. So it's like, how many long parts of a fence do you need for a fence that has 10 posts in it? Would be 9 posts. It's 1 less than the 10 of them. You kind of have to figure that out. I had to do that when I was like 10 years old once, and I didn't get it right. I said, oh, of course, 10 of them. All right, so of course, what if one breaks? All right, what if one doesn't fit? I was probably being a smart aleck. All right, so what we got here is what I was talking about. Is we can look at the keys of cage, which is C, A, G, E, D, right in the open boxes for those string shapes, which will be the bottom string intervals at that point. Or in one key, we can look at any one key and start in C. We start in the key of C, we start with C box, and we can advance those shapes up to get to A, to get to G, to get to E, and to get to D. And then it just repeats here. The reason why I repeated it here was because in the last chart, okay, that's the that's the fretboard that's that's got the jitters. Oh. Okay, so this is what happened today. I was going through the charts trying to count them, or trying to find I was trying to find the oldest chart for the for the class and for my posts, and that happened. Yeah, that's the fretboard conveyor belt. And that's important. It's kind of got a bearing on things. So, just look at the bright side of what happens. That's kind of what's happening. Where you have for different keys, you have the same relationship. Kind of feeding in as like a conveyor belt into the fret nut. You've heard the fellow on the commercials, saying fretboard conveyor belt. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. I did a GIF about it just to show all of the, and it really didn't help me much because they're moving along too fast. I wanted to use it and then stop anywhere and say, now that's the new key cage. The same thing, that's the new key. Same thing you can do with just a fret nut. So you don't have to have the whole thing going like a bat out of hell there. You can just use there's a fly in this room. You could just use a fret nut approach. So if I put the fret nut here, okay, that root